The NFL draft is quickly approaching, and every team somewhere has a positional need of some sort, whether it is to shore up a hole they currently have or to address several positions to completely reconstruct their roster. Looking at you, Houston. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing the needs of several teams, including, but obviously not limited to, the Houston Texans, as they were aforementioned. And there's a lot to dive into in today's video, and we will discuss potential prospects going to each of these teams, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video with the Houston Texans, who have a lot of needs, and when you go to the PFF mock draft simulator, they have the top team needs for everyone, and when the Texans show up on the screen, it says, quote, needs every position. And that's not honestly the case. Davis Mills, love, like, hate him, don't have an opinion on him, whatever the case may be, played pretty good for a rookie in 2021, and you can certainly argue he was the best rookie quarterback out of any of last year, and in that class, that says something. And not to be confused with if there was a redraft, would he go number 1 overall, because he would not, but it is to show he did not play bad in his rookie year. When Houston will be on the clock at number 3, the way I view this pick for them as a franchise is this. You've now had back-to-back number 3 overall picks and need a lot of help. Every position of need is a little exaggerative, but I do think they should go best player available for every pick. And right now, there is a good chance tackle Ike Ekwonu from NC State will be available, and that would be a terrific selection for them, because they would then have a trio of him, Titus Howard, and Laramie Tunsil on the offensive line, and if either of the other two ever leave in free agency, Ekwonu could kick out the tackle and become a starting tackle for a long time. And at 13, they can either take the receiver of their choosing from what is left, because I do believe there will be at least one, if not two receivers off the board by then, but if you take both an offensive lineman and a receiver, perhaps like a Garrett Wilson, well, that's a start to rebuilding the Houston Texans. They are back on the clock at pick 37, and having 3 top 40 picks in the draft is critical for any team, and especially the Texans of all teams, and what I would like for them to do there is select a pass rusher if that was not addressed in the first round. That is of course under the assumption that a player in the secondary or somewhere else has not fallen unexpectedly, because head coach Lovie Smith, as we know, loves his corners. For Houston though, what does benefit them is this is a deep pass rushing class, and while they will not have a chance to draft Aiden Hutchinson, if in the chance the Jags do not take him, Detroit will certainly snatch him up. Hutch is not a Chase Young or Myles Garrett player, and that's fine, but this class is deep and loaded with pass rushers, and they can certainly get a quality pass rusher at 37 if one is not addressed at 3 or 13. I love Ike Ekwonu to the Texans, and have a hard time seeing them pass on him because they can solidify 3 of 5 spots on the offensive line for the foreseeable future, whether that's for Davis Mills to stand behind or someone else in the future. Build up the team, then go get that quarterback, if Davis is not the answer, of course, because right now, I know, you know, and everyone knows, in that conference, Houston is at least 2 years away from competing in the vaunted AFC. Next up is the New York Giants, and with picks 5 and 7, there are countless ways they could attack these picks, and that includes the possibility of trading back. I do think when they're on the clock at 5 at least, they will have the choice of 2 tackles of the big 3 available, along with at least 1 pass rusher like a Trayvon Walker or Kayvon Thibodeau, as well as Sauce Gardner. In terms of position of need, this is the ultimate class for the New York Giants, and very rarely do we have teams that need all of the positions a specific draft class is loaded with, yet it worked out tremendously for New York. Andrew Thomas is a good left tackle and will be there for a while, and I like the thought of having a tackle duo for the future in Thomas and Neal. And if Neal is available at 5, which as the days go on, it's looking more and more like that will become a reality, that's certainly a route they can go at number 5 and probably should go, might I add. They have Wink Martindale as their defensive coordinator, and if there was one thing he loved during his time in Baltimore, it is corners. And I sent out a tweet a couple of weeks ago at this point that said I don't see any scenario where Sauce Gardner isn't a Giant, and the more I think about it, the more I think New York walks out of the first round with Evan Neal and Sauce Gardner. And I know when we do mock drafts, it's always what we think will happen, and there is a chance they take Trayvon Walker if he is available, But if I were the GM, I would 100% rather walk away from the first round with Evan Neal and Sauce and come back on day 2 with pick 36 and attack the pass rush then. If you're lucky, and this is a big if. Boye Mafe from Minnesota makes it there, but again, that's if you're lucky. Regardless, Sauce is a very good player, and Evan Neal fixes a problem you currently have for a long time, and if Daniel Jones is not the answer, which we will find out for sure in 2022, then the next quarterback has 2 tackles to protect him until, assuming they stay healthy of course, at least 2030. I am not the biggest Trayvon Walker fan because there is so much projection in his game, where with Sauce we know he's a beast, and he's good, and will more than likely be good in the NFL too, where for Trayvon, he's a good run defender, but we're banking on the fact he will become an elite pass rusher, and that's not a player I want to risk at number 5 or 7 overall. And with the new regime wanting to set the tone early, I would be pretty surprised if they took this much of a gamble with either one of these picks. And that's why I love the very real possibility of the Giants walking out of the first round with both Evan Neal and Sauce Gardner. Next up is the Minnesota Vikings, and this is a team that needs corner help in the worst way. They signed veteran Patrick Peterson to another 1-year deal and have third-year player Cam Dantzler as their starters for next year, but after that, oh boy is it bad. Harrison Hand is entering his 3rd year and is a former 5th-round pick, and well, when he's played about as well as you'd expect, and the same goes to Chris Boyd, a former 7th-round pick, who was matched up one-on-one on Davante Adams last year a couple of times, and I really don't have to tell you how those plays ended. But the player they will be targeting most is, of course, Sauce Gardner, but it is expected for him to be long gone by then, and after that, it is Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU. Given Derek went to LSU, and of course Patrick Peterson is a former LSU legend, there's a lot of people that want this to happen, myself included, because Patrick is known to be a good vet in terms of teaching the young guys and helping them along with their careers, and it's a win-win if this happens. And if in the scenario Derek is not there, because it's obviously well known the Vikings need help at corner, and there is a chance someone could trade with the Washington Commanders and trade directly in front of them to get Stingley, a dream fit for this team would be to then trade back a couple of picks and get a good interior offensive lineman in Tyler Linderbaum. And if that were how the draft played out for Minnesota in the first round, then you'd look for someone like a Jalen Petrie from Baylor in the second, or if they took Stingley in the first, then I love Tyler Smith from Tulsa to them in the second round. Minnesota's 2 biggest needs are without a doubt interior offensive line and corner, but one thing new general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has to remember is just because they need these positions, they cannot force these picks when the time comes, as in they can't force a corner at 12 if Sauce and Stingley are gone, as that rarely works out, though at times it has. Shout out the Atlanta Falcons with AJ Terrell. Depending on how the first few rounds goes for Minnesota, they will also have to take a look at receiver at some point because of Adam Thielen on the wrong side of 30 and him turning 32 years old before the 2022 season starts. They could attack this early to pair with Justin Jefferson for a while, though I think the possibility of that is significantly lower, but it is worth noting because they are a very sneaky team that could take a receiver in the first round. And next we go to Philly to discuss what they can do with picks 15 and 18 and some of the other picks they have for that matter as well. Philly has 5 top picks in the 101 overall selections, and with what will inevitably be a combination of offensive linemen, which they don't have an immediate pressing need to fill, and pass rush, there's going to be a lot of good players on the board for them at both 15 and 18, and this is a take I haven't seen a lot, but I'd really love for Philly to be able to get one of the Georgia defensive linemen, whether that's Jordan Davis or Devonte Wyatt. I'd love Davis in this defense, as Philly is in the NFC East where they run the ball quite a bit, and not the AFC West where they have Herbert, Mahomes, Russ, and Derek Carr in their division. Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz, and Dak aren't quite the same players, and if you have a huge difference maker in the middle like Jordan Davis to pair with Fletcher Cox, even if it is for only a year, well, good luck moving the football in the middle of the field. And even Devonte Wyatt, for that matter, who would be the heir to Fletcher. They also need help at linebacker, and I would love if Philly could walk out of the first round with a duo of either Georgia linemen and Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Utah. And honestly, if they walked out with two Georgia Bulldogs, one being a big boy and then Nakobe Dean, I wouldn't be upset with that either. They have picks 51, 83, and 101, and I would like to think at some point they will address the receiver position again to help out Jalen Hurts as much as they possibly can. They did wonders by giving him Devontae Smith, but as we know, one receiver does not fill out the entire roster. They will need to hit this position again, and relatively early at that. Philadelphia is in a unique position because you can look at their roster and say if they do this, then they can win the division, or you can say they don't have this and they'll miss the playoffs. Draft two good long-term starters like Jordan Davis and Devin Lloyd with those top 20 picks and let the rest fall into place. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it would truly mean the world. And until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.